everybody, John Meadows here, and I've been asked many times lately about carb cycling. Carb cycling is a dietary strategy that's been around for a long time, and basically most of the plans is they'll have 3 low days of carbohydrates, 2 medium days, and then 2 high days. Now, the theory behind carb cycling is you've got those low days where you're burning body fat, and then you got those high carb days where you have some glycogen supercompensation, where you feel awesome, where you can actually build muscle. So it's touted kind of as the diet that allows you to get leaner and get bigger at the same time. I like carb cycling a lot, but I think it's probably overblown a little bit in terms of burning fat and gaining muscle at the same time. That's very difficult to do. As far as burning body fat, can carb cycling work? Absolutely can work. But at the end of the day, you just have to make sure that your calories and that you're in a deficit. So when you do your low carb days, you're probably going to be in a deficit, because typically what we do is you keep your protein steady. But then when you do your high carb days, if you go so high, if you eat so many extra carbs that you take yourself into a heavy surplus that maybe outweighs even the deficit you were in, maybe not, you'll lose body fat. So if your goal is to lose body fat, you just got to be careful. I mean, you got to watch those high days. You got to make sure you don't take your carbs up so high, your surplus isn't so great that you kind of negate the effects of the deficit that you were in when you're in the low carb phase. I'm going to assume on the medium days, you're pretty much at your normal, kind of your break-even point. Can it help you gain muscle? Absolutely. Absolutely. So low carbs can help enhance insulin sensitivity. And maybe you've seen my videos on insulin sensitivity and kind of how to manipulate that, how to focus on that. So when you have lower carb days, you are not eating as many carbs, so your pancreas isn't pumping out as much insulin. So your insulin receptors aren't getting overworked. So they tend to stay fresh, and they're better at pulling glucose into cells. So then when you have the high carb days and you put more carbs in you, your insulin receptors are a little more fresh, and they can shuttle in the glucose, which gets converted to glycogen. You're big, you're awesome, you're strong, you feel great. Everybody feels great on high carbs. So yeah, you can also gain muscle on carb cycling. Again, you got to make sure that your calories at the end of the week at least are in a surplus. So when you do your low days, if you go really low, you're going to have to be real aggressive on your high carb days. If your low carb days, you aren't quite as aggressive, then you don't need to go as aggressive on your high carb days. So just think of it as a balancing act. The harder you go on your low carb days, the lower you go, then the higher you're going to have to go on your high carb days in order to stay in a caloric surplus. Now, to me, this is just common sense. But I wanted to do this video because I think some people assume it's the holy grail of I'm going to get ripped and I'm also going to get huge at the same time, and it's not that easy. But I do like the diet, and just the way what your goal is will determine how you use the diet plan itself. So again, it's typically 3 low days. A low day to me is like 25 grams, maybe even 0. Then you have the medium days where you're kind of at your normal rate, and maybe that's 200 grams or 250 grams, whatever you're used to eating. And then on a high carb day, the 2 high carb days, you might be at 2 to 2.5 times your body weight in grams. So, like if you weigh 200 pounds, you might be eating 400 to 500 grams of carbs. That's kind of the normal use of carb cycling.